What's going on, everybody? Doc, Average Gamer Guys, back yet again. Some more Escape from Tarkov action. In this video today, we are covering the 12.7 preliminary patch notes, as well as taking a look at the video that accompanies that. We're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to run through the highlights of the patch notes, as well as give some impressions on some of the things that we get a chance to see through the video. And again, if you haven't seen that video, we'll roll that clip here in just a minute. I'll also put the link in the description so you can go check it out on Battlestate Games' official YouTube channel. Really awesome trailer. Super pumped for this. Coming out very soon. They don't have a specific release date, but typically when we get patch notes, we can expect the patch for EFT usually within about a week. So we're going to jump into those patch notes. And again, we'll jump into that clip. Before we do all that, just really do appreciate if you clicked on this video, if you end up enjoying it or it was helpful to you or it was just good information, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button for us as well. Really helps. We do appreciate all the support on the channel. In addition to that, you're going to see links probably rolling through in the bottom left hand corner. We've got a Twitter, a Twitch, and a Discord. Pretty active on the Discord and very active over on Twitch if you want to catch us for a live stream. Other than that, stay tuned to the channel. And we've got some EFT content up and more in the future. So especially working through 12.7, some new areas to look at, and some new bosses to go fight, some new quests. So I'm really excited for the future, and definitely going to be trying to cover some more guides, maybe some of the newer stuff as well, as we get a little more content for this game. So again, appreciate you clicking in, and hopefully you guys enjoy this. With all that being said, let's jump into the clip. And then we will go from there and talk through patch notes. So I just have to say, after watching it, it gets me hyped. The music is awesome. I'll just a lot of credit to Nikita and the team for putting really good trailer together, showing off some of the cool stuff inside of the upcoming patch, the upcoming customs expansion, a little bit of the additional stuff we're gonna see on Shoreline with the new Scavs boss. So I'm really excited for that, and just I'm super pumped. Play this game a ton, and anybody loves new content, and when you put out a pretty hype trailer like that, it definitely adds to the excitement. So without further ado, let's jump into the actual preliminary patch notes. I'm not going to cover all of this, but as you can see, and I will put the link down below if you want to scroll through these and take a look, I do want to highlight some of the big stuff. And again, a little bit of my impressions and some of my, I'll say, maybe tentative concerns until we learn a little bit more. And we obviously have a lot to learn. The patch isn't even out yet. So we got a lot to learn. We got a lot to kind of do some testing on and to see how some of this stuff is going to apply. But all in all, this feels like a really big patch. 12.6 came with a lot of changes. I think we really expected the customs expansion at that point. a little letdown that it didn't come, but honestly, it was probably a good time because now this patch feels even bigger with that expansion coming. So that's the first thing you see here. Customs expansion. Again, through the video, you saw some of the industrial area, some additions to the construction site, obviously new explorable buildings. We saw that Rashala is going to be able to kind of rotate over there. You saw the stationary weapons, both the MGL as well as the mounted machine gun. So super excited for that. We'll do some screenshots actually of Sanitar here that we were able to grab from the clip. You saw him a couple of times on Shoreline. Looks like he's actually going to be able to spawn over near like the dock area, definitely in the resort, and potentially over by the cabins as well. I think we're all shots of him. So that's a pretty good movement around of Sanitar. I'm actually really excited for this boss. The fact that he has the ability, as you can see here from the patch notes, he has a bunch of new stims, which we'll show down below. There was some additional information that came out that basically talked about some of the stims, increased strength, increased backpack space. I think they actually went through and talked a lot about that in the Tarkov podcast that they did. And so if you want to go and check that out, a lot more information over there. But some really crazy new stims that I think are going to be kind of dynamic. Stims have been for since they've been introduced. I think they've been one of those things that you know, really experienced good players know how to use them. If you have a lot of money, you know, morphine gets used a lot, as I think been a lot more popular since 12.6, just with kind of the rework and it being a little bit more accessible. And I think some additional stims here are really going to add to how you want to play the game. Again, increased strength, increased backpack space, just a lot of different stuff that they're doing, which I think is pretty cool. So Sanitar, the Shoreline Scav boss, is going to actually have all of those stims on him. Probably not at the same time, but he's going to be able to have all of those spawn on him in probably different quantities. And I think that's really cool. I also like that he is that field medic. So he's going to be able to do surgery really quick. He's going to be able to heal himself. I think it's going to make his, I'll call it his time to kill, probably pretty tough. In addition to the ability for him to heal his group of scavs, I think is really cool. So we'll take a look at some screenshots here in just a minute. In addition to that, we're going to get some new quests for Shoreline. I'm sure we'll get like a not a peacekeeper, we'll get like a Jaeger update as far as having to go in and take out the new boss. And I'm sure there'll be a couple of other things. Shoreline's got a pretty good amount of quests, but a lot of them seem to be pretty well centralized to the resort. We obviously get some of the UAV crashes and some things that move us around, but nothing really to do with the docks, nothing really to do much with the island. So it'd be kind of cool to see some of that stuff and some quests kind of pull some players in that area as well. And then, of course, we've talked about this, and this has been one of the big asks from the community, is the ability to report suspicious players, nicknames, and game bugs. So that's going to be on the post-match screen, and I think a very long-awaited feature. They did talk on the podcast about basically that this is not going to automatically cause bans, but it's going to just be there to really help gather a bunch of information. And I think the game bugs side of things is huge. And then again, suspicious players, they can go back, they can kind of track. Just more information does not hurt in that regard. So I think that's really cool. So this is the other thing that I find really interesting and that are really trying to make more immersive is the bots and your scavs. So they talk about a lot here, but basically they're trying to make them act a little bit more like players. That's the best way I can describe it. You're still going to be able to pick them out once you kind of learn how they move and what they do. But the fact that they can eat and drink, the fact that they're now going to greet each other and player scavs, showing peaceful intentions. They're now going to aim at you, potentially just if they're not sure what your intentions are. They're going to sprint while patrolling now, which I think is kind of something we saw a little bit at 12.6 patch, where they started to move around and sprint a little bit more consistently, run to cover. In addition to that, they're going to avoid dangerous places, so they're going to take cover more often. They're going to move through those positions pretty quickly. They're also going to be able to gather together and storm a player as a group. So I think they're really trying to kind of ratchet up a little bit of the difficulty of the scavs, and it's always been interesting to me, especially on maps like Customs, some of the other ones, even Shoreline, where you can get a group of a couple of them that are pretty close to each other, and they almost seem oblivious, minus gunshots and kind of reacting to that. They always kind of seemed oblivious to the fact that the guy, not very many feet from him, died, and from each other died. So I think this is pretty cool. They're also going to be able to pick up firearms. The one thing that I'm a little concerned about now is that it says they're going to be able to pick up items, and I hope it's just items relative to the area that they're patrolling, and I don't anticipate that it would be barter type items. Um, but they did talk about, and again, being able to pick up a second firearm and some things off of dead bodies does make sense. So I like that. I think this is going to be cool. I think it's going to add a new dynamic, and I also kind of hope that it's going to make some of your scav runs a little bit more immersive as well. And we should get some cool stuff out of that. So I think that's going to be neat. They did show off a ton. You saw it in the trailer as well. The new GL40 grenade launcher, as well as I think we got to see a little bit of the Mossberg 590A1 shotgun. So Mossberg, that is pretty standard, just pump shotgun. It looks like you can deck it out pretty well. So I look for some pretty cool modifications with that. And I don't know where it'll fit within the shotgun meta, but at least a new option to try out. And again, we got to see what's actually going to be, you can modify on it, because I think that's going to be a big part of it. The new grenade launcher, they talked about on the podcast, it's going to be very expensive. You see a lot of the ammo right here. We get quite a bit of different rounds for it. They said the ammo is going to be very expensive. The gun itself is going to be very expensive. I think what's interesting, though, is how easy it is going to be to use it and what your explosion radius is. So I think there's definitely going to be some balancing with this gun, but your kind of inside spaces, I think this thing is going to be pretty deadly. And I'm interested to see, especially later on in the wipe, again, depending on how much it is and how accessible the ammo is, I'm interested to see farther into wipes how many people are carrying this in as a secondary, and swapping to it when it's appropriate, and just kind of how that changes the dynamic. They used it on the podcast in Factory very, very lethally. Now, granted, that was against Scavs, but I'm very interested to see, again, how this is going to play out. And even when you're able to get it, I feel like this is going to be something that is capped pretty far into the game. But again, it also depends on what you can find as far as just out in the different worlds and what spawns, and specifically maps like Reserve. And I will also be interested to see how a weapon like this functions in labs, with everything being pretty close indoors. You're gonna have some pretty good angles to drop some shrapnel on some folks. So we will see. I'm excited about it. Also a little nervous. And but time will tell. Time will tell, and I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic. So we get a bunch of new ammos here. The couple ones that I'm going to cover. This 366 ammo, they talked about actually being pretty dang devastating. I think that's interesting. I think adding something else to the 366 platform, this is going to give those platforms a lot more viability, especially into the late game, and I think that's what this round is designed to do. We get some ACP 45 round, which is pretty cool. I think specifically, we get a couple of them, actually. We get the Shock, Laser Match, and the AP. I think this is going to be pretty neat, especially when you consider the 1911, as well as potentially the Vector that's coming on later in some patches. And I think they're just stepping up the ammo, and that's pretty cool. In addition to the 1911 getting a lot of the customizations and mods that we've seen that they are planning. Don't know if those are going to be this patch or not, but I think they're just trying to really set it up for those to be viable, and that should be pretty cool. We get some new 9x19 ammo. The other big thing here, beyond, again, all of your 40 mil for your grenade launcher, is this 7.62 by 5.1 993. They talked about in the podcast that this thing is going to be the more powerful than M61. So your Vepr Hunters, your M1As, your DT, which is what I use a lot, is going to get even more brutal. And I have a feeling that this round, I don't know, a couple of these rounds could be meta. Your 366, your 993 here. It's going to be really interesting, but it almost feels like they're definitely changing a lot of the dynamic, and I like that. as long as it comes with a good balance. So this is pretty cool. I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see specific stats on these. Again, they talked about what they had intended for them to be in the podcast, but we'll see what actually comes out when the patch comes and in game. And again, how accessible some of this stuff is going to be. I imagine this is a high level trader. But even to a certain extent, I also wonder if we're going to be able to get some crafting options for those, and what that's going to look like in the hideout. So some pretty cool stuff coming from an ammo perspective. Here are all of the new stimulants, and again, some of the stuff that we talked about, I think is going to be pretty cool for what these can do. I also talked about, they added some, this is probably pretty big if you're familiar with a lot of other games, that talks about not only your ping, but your high packet loss. Definitely impacts your game, and I think that's good. This is just also, I think, data collection as well. So I think that's important for people to understand, is that when they introduce something like this, they're also introducing a way to track it and basically allow you probably to report. And I think that's important for both client side and server side for them to be able to get that information. So in addition to that, we have some skill rework. So I'm not going to go through all of this stuff, but what I will say is I think it's interesting we're getting this new skill, which is cool, which talks about surgery. The max here, no HP penalty and maximum increase for speed. I think the speed increase is going to be really big. The other thing that's interesting for me on this is really going to change the dynamic between CMS and Serve 12s on which one you carry in. Especially if you get reduced HP penalty as you level this thing up, your CMS at that point looks probably a lot more enticing, and at 2 slots, 5 uses, probably feels pretty dang good. Even if you're running a Kappa, that's still an additional slot that you're going to be able to get. And I think you really be able to capitalize on this. It also really plays into the fact of you're getting shot a lot and you use these a lot. I think that is cool to have a skill that kind of revolves around that level of healing. So I like that. You get a new skill for aim drills. I like this as well, which is basically your ADS speed, how fast you aim down sights. You can see what the increase and decrease for that is. And then again, from the elite perspective, I think that's cool. Reducing the handshakes is obviously something that you would really want. I don't know how impactful this is going to be, since it's going to take a while to get to this point. But I do think it's pretty interesting, and I do like where this is going. So again, if you hip fire a lot, you're probably not going to see this. And I imagine if you don't hip fire a lot, you're going to see some gains in this as well. They talk about reworks for both strength and endurance. From my understanding, these are not significantly different. Minus melee attack being stronger than usual. I think that's really the only change. The rest of this is pretty well similar to what it is, but I'm sure we'll get some values and some adjustments to that. So we're going to have to see how those skills are reworked. I think the weight limits thing would be the one that most people are pretty interested in. And we'll see what comes out with the patch on that one. Lastly, other fixes to old skills. So we'll see what that looks like. Not a lot of information there. This is probably one of the biggest things that we're going to see from this patch, and getting a lot of discussion on Reddit and a lot of other places, is 5 additional HP to the chest zone, moving it from 80 to 85. This basically does eliminate everything, a lot of the ammos, except for I think 7N1 and some shotgun ammo and maybe a couple of others that basically can one-shot. So the discussion about Mosin's, the LPS ammo, and some of the adjustments they did recently is going to change this. I do think this increases, it's just going to increase a little bit of those, the time to kill. It's going to increase those instances of fighting, and that little tweak there might be the difference. I'm also interested to see what this impacts versus what new ammos we're going to see, and what actually the values for damage and penetration that these are going to have. I think this might also be a little bit of a balance to make some of these not so overpowered and still fit in pretty well with the current meta, as well as kind of shifting it up a little bit. So I'm excited about this. I like this. I think this game, getting a little bit of a longer time to kill, it's still going to be very brutal. Headshots and all that stuff still are obviously what is probably going to be you know, the kicker for most people. But I think getting into a little bit more of an extended fight, as well as honestly fighting some of the bosses and some of the other things that we have in the game, I think make this a little interesting where you can get chested out pretty easily. So I like this change. If you run the Mosin a lot, I'm sorry. If you're working through your Jaeger task, I'm also very sorry about that. But it is what it is, and we'll see how this impacts. We don't know. I'm sure a lot of additional balances and adjustments will be made to a lot of different things based on the feedback and what they're seeing from that change. A lot of optimizations, a lot of things that are fixed, which is pretty dang cool. So I always like to see that. There's fixes in the flea market, fixes with weapon presets in the hideout. You can now actually go in and you can take a look at your items, which I think is pretty cool. That's been one of the problems in the past. Definitely this bug with installing water filters I've seen myself, and again, just a whole bunch of other bug fixes that you can where you can definitely make some changes here. I think it's interesting, you know, like fix a bug where Gluhar would not react to a killed in the head ally. You know, some of these I'm probably a little sad that they're being fixed, but honestly, it is what it is. So just a whole bunch of stuff. The other thing, your PPSH and your SV98 getting some new animations, sprint, holds, loading screen, all that stuff seems pretty cool. Yeah, I think this is going to be a really, really big patch. This is what I was talking about earlier. Examining. That's a word I couldn't think of. You can now examine items in the hideout, which is good. I think especially for newer players, you upgrade something and then you could never click on it to actually look at it to then maybe filter it to the flea market. That should eliminate that option and should make that a whole lot easier to see what you need to be able to see. So a lot of cool stuff. Really, really excited for 12.7. The last thing I'm going to have for you is we'll jump into the pictures we've got here really quick of the new Sanitar boss. Pull these over. And these are just some quick screen grabs that I got actually from the video that we had. So this is over here, obviously, on the docks portion by the boats. This is him right here. Nice blue jacket, nice med bag. Looks like he's rocking a shotgun. It does appear to be that. And I think this is kind of cool, him having a blue coat. I think he'll stand out pretty well comparative to a lot of other scavs. And I like that. I like being able to pick him out. So here's another shot of inside the resort, first floor, on one of the wings. Kind of a grainy shot, so I do apologize by that. But I did want to show that this is basically him and his minion. And here's a good shot of his minion. So not sure if he's, I think, rocking some kind of AK there. Can't really tell what armor. But you can see he is rocking an attack backpack. And there is a second guy behind him. So it looks like these guys are going to come in pretty well geared. And again, I think that's pretty cool. I've always enjoyed the raid bosses and kind of the gear that they have. And now it's not only going to be raiders that have the potential of carrying in some good backpacks as well. So I think that's pretty cool. So again, I'm very, very excited for this. I think this patch is going to be absolutely awesome. I cannot wait to fight the new boss, see kind of what the new scavs are doing, as well as a whole bunch of the new stuff that was added, test out some of this ammo. I hope you guys are as pumped as I am for this. So again, hopefully this was beneficial for you. Links in the description down below. For both the video, the patch notes, as well as links for our Twitter, Twitch, and Discord. Again, if you're excited about Tarkov, you want to come in to a chill stream, chat with us a little bit. If you're a newer player or a veteran player, stop by. We really would appreciate you over on Twitch. And again, if you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button for us. Subscribe for a little bit more EFT content coming soon. We do appreciate all of the support. So I've been Doc, Average Gamer Guys. As always, thank you so much for watching. And hopefully we'll catch you next time and on a stream here real soon. Thanks for watching. Peace.